This takes us into another question, which I think, in talking to you earlier in the year, the major banks are receiving 25% of their revenues from overseas operations, and this gets us into and I think talking with Audi, you were expecting this to hit 40%, or hoping it in due course. Is this sort of reliance again on the outside operations, and again from a viewer point of view, we're looking at North Africa, we're looking at Egypt, and again Syria, how this will affect the inflow of revenues and profits from outside of Lebanon. How is that going to be affected, and can this be sustained? Can Audi hit 40% from outside of Lebanon in the next, number of years, or do we have to put that timetable back a bit until stability occurs?
You are answering your previous question.
Yes.
This is what would explain the lower growth in our consolidated earnings this year. It's because of the lower contribution of those foreign entities. So we do expect that in 2011 the share of foreign entities in consolidated assets and earnings to decrease, but it won't put into question our medium-term targets once the problems in those countries settles and the prospects becomes more clear. What is happening in Egypt and Syria translates at our level much more in terms of delays in our business plans, for those countries than in direct hits, on our assets and earnings. So obviously our target to reach a better balanced breakdown of assets and earnings between Lebanon and abroad is going to be delayed for a minimum of 1.5 years to 2 years, in my opinion. In other words, what was planned to be achieved pre-crisis in year 3 is going most probably to be achieved in year 5. So there is a cost of delay. But going back to inflows of deposits, we haven't been speaking, to those non-resident Lebanese or Arabs over the last 4 or 5 months. Despite this fact, when you look at the breakdown of the increase of deposits for the first 5 months, which amounts to $3.3 billion, there is $1 billion which comes from non-resident. So there is a natural tendency, I would say, a national trend of those inflows, which relates obviously to the recurrent remittances. I don't know if you know that remittances per capita in Lebanon stands at $2,000, whereby the per capita income of non-oil producing economies in the region is at $3,000. Just, to put things into perspective.
Well, again, these questions are important. You mentioned delays. I think there's a consensus here on delays. Does that? I was struck earlier in the year by Beirut, Bank of Beirut in Australia, and again some of the acquisitions in that. There's been some in Cyprus that you've all made. Turkey is interesting. How do you see the acquisitions going forward?
We all are trying to expand our activities outside Lebanon in absolute and in relative terms. And the targets of 20, 30, 40%, whatever, will obviously be a little delayed. The reason is simple. First of all, the Lebanese market is a very competitive market. So no matter what you do, your ROEs are bound by the ceiling of competitiveness. Second, we have this large exposure to the sovereign. So for these 2 reasons and others, it is in our interest to diversify outside Lebanon. And we are all doing it.